everyone today. Welcome to Teach Inspire Today. I am your host, Debbie Major. I am thankful that you have joined me today. Today we are going to talk about the first 3 of the 7 essential things for retirement tips for you as an educator. So we're going to talk about these 3 things today, and then the next section, next class we're going to talk about the other ones. Teachers, you give so much every day. You're shaping lives and you're inspiring the future. But when it comes to your retirement, the path forward can feel uncertain. If you're an educator juggling demands of busy schedules and financial stress, you are not alone. Many teachers worry about outliving their savings, or managing their pension, or ensuring long-term care without burdening their family, with pensions often alone falling short. Many educators struggle to bridge the gap between what they need and what they have for a secure retirement. That's where Educators Financial Foresight Weekly comes in. Each week, I'll guide you through clear, actionable steps to understand your pension and spot hidden gaps, build a retirement income strategy tailored to your needs, protect your savings from inflation and unexpected costs, and plan for long-term care and estate needs without burdening your loved ones. Your career has been about making a difference. Tune in every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on YouTube and LinkedIn. Let's build a retirement as rewarding as your career. So the first question, of course, everybody always thinks of, are you ready? Are you ready to retire? Are you ready to take on the next phase of your life? You know, maybe sit at the beach, enjoy your Adirondacks chairs, or maybe do some other things, you know. Are you ready? What are you thinking about when it comes to retirement? And that's, of course, the first thing. You know, this is springtime right now when I'm recording this, and I know this is the time when you get your packets and you start to fill out the information, and you start to make sure you go to all those webinars that the pension plan may provide for you, and then you talk to all of your teacher friends and your educator friends, and you say, well, what are we doing? What are you doing? And how do I do this? And maybe even look for some advice from an advisor on what should I do. So I thought, well, let's start with the basics here, and let's make sure that we all get off on the right path. So if you've listened to me at all or read any of my articles, you know that I really do think that we need to be thinking about our future self and planning to make our future self happy, because we know it's going to be here, the future is, and we are going to be there, and we're not going to be the same person we are today. So we're not just going off into the never land of retirement to do nothing and, you know, be lazy, right? Most of us think about other things. And so what I want you to do first is have a dream. Have a dream for your life. And we all think about different things we're going to do, right? Now's the time to kind of pull it all together and make a dream. For example, what are some things you could think about that you may dream about doing? Are you thinking about maybe you want to go and travel around, see different parts of the world, maybe travel around the United States and visit people that you haven't seen in a long time? Do you have grandchildren or family members that you just haven't been able to connect with very often, maybe because they're far away, maybe just because you're all so busy that you really want to look forward to connecting with and spending time with? You know, are those the people that you want to be with? And what about that relaxing? What about that me time that you so deserve to get, right? Maybe you want to volunteer a little bit. Maybe there's some things that, you know, you wanted to really do in the community and you just couldn't do it because you were too busy, and you couldn't afford to just say, I'm not going to work and I'll just volunteer, and now you can. Or maybe there's a new sport like pickleball you might want to pick up. That's my favorite. Or just something you want to do with other people that might be social and fun for you to do. So these are just some ideas I thought of, you know, to kind of get your mind rolling. You know, when I say have a dream, I usually say things like, think of the things, the people you want to be with, the things you want to be doing. You know, who do you see yourself with? What do you see yourself doing? You know, and that really, because that, just like we make goals and objectives to get through our lesson plans and our days, so we need goals and objectives for our lives. But if we take those goals and we just make them, you know, into something intangible, we want to also have something that gives us hope and something to look forward to. And that's what a dream looks like. That's what a future dream looks like for ourselves. So
do you have anything on your bucket list would be my other thing, something that maybe you have not done yet that you'd like to do. Because you're on your own life's journey and you should enjoy it. Make the most of it. Live your best life now. So now that we've got our dream, and you've got your dream and you're ready to go and you've got a thing on it, now let's bring it home a little bit more and let's talk about being realistic about your expenses. All right, your expenses are going to change. They're not going to be the same. Some things, some things are going to go up and some things are going to go down. One thing that for sure is going to change and will probably go up over the years is going to be your medical expenses. So I always kind of like to point that out. It is something different. You've been getting your insurance most likely through work, and you probably have been paid whoever you work for has been paying the lion's share of that expense, and now it comes to you. If you retire before you're 65, you're going to be responsible for either paying their share or getting an individual plan on the exchange. If you're 65, you're going to be picking up Medicare, and you're going to be picking up either a Medicare Advantage plan to go with it or a supplement and a prescription plan. So medical will change. It's a big change. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it stays the same for a while, but it may be one of those places where you will spend more. You may also spend less in things. You could spend less in your commuting expenses, right? Gas, don't have to spend so much money on gas, especially with the gas prices just keep going up and they don't really seem to be stabilizing or going back down anytime soon. You may be wardrobe-wise. Now you can sit in leggings all day long, right? We don't have to worry about so much about our wardrobe and what we're wearing. Maybe we'll just, spend less in the fact that we're not eating out as much because we are home now, or we're making more meals because we're more relaxed and we have that time to do that. There's 3 essentials for the expenses that I want you to think about, especially when it comes to retirement. And these are what I use the acronym for MUG because it makes it easy to remember. And that stands for M is for mortgage, U is for utilities, G is for groceries. These are the 3 things that you want to make sure that is paid for with a guaranteed check every single month. So that you have peace of mind to know that you've got a place to live, the lights are going to be on, and I can eat this month. There's lots of things, and you probably have plenty more money to do other things, but these are the 3 that are essential. And I say they're essential because they're the things that should be always met through the rest of your life, no matter what, through some guaranteed sources of income. Another way to look at expenses that I find very helpful and I really like, and I've talked about this before, is there's like 3 phases to retirement. The first phase is like our go-go years, and that's where you see at the top of this chart the enjoy spending. That's your go-go. You might even increase some of the things that you spend money on when you first retire because you're fixing up the house, you're taking a cruise, you're helping your kids out. Maybe you're still in a spot where you're helping your own parents out. That's happening more and more often. And then after those first 10 years or so, we call them the slow go years. It's a simpler lifestyle. We've done all of our big things. Our big bucket lists are taken care of. We're starting to slow down a little bit. So we're just, kind of happy maintaining our home and having our friends and doing some things around our neighborhood, visiting with our family. And then we move into our last phase, our last 10 years, and we call that the supported lifestyle or the no-go years, where you're going to need care, where you're going to need, health care costs are going to go up, where you may have to move out of your home and live in assisted living or independent living or head down that road there. And you can see the ages and your annual income, it needs to be higher, then it usually slows down a little bit. And if your annual income's coming down, that means your expenses are coming down. And then up to supported lifestyle, where you can see it goes up again. So this is a really good visual for what the years through retirement would look like and where the parts of your dream are going to fit into that place in retirement. So the first thing was have a dream, have your dream retirement. Second thing, know your expenses. And the third thing we're going to talk about today is very essential, is to know your pension. If you are a public school teacher or you work for any kind of public education, you are participating in a public pension, either your PERS pension or your STRS pension, a public pension that you've been paying into instead of Social Security. There's pluses and there's minuses to this. The big plus for a public pension is that you usually have a better income payout than what you'd be getting in Social Security if you were taking Social Security. And it's based on your salary and the highest amount of years that you've put in, and then whatever factor they're using for the service credit. It's a math problem that you'll figure out, and they'll see how much that it's covering, and it's guaranteed for life. Things that can affect your public pension and your payout is, well, first of all, which payout are you going to take? The amount that they show you that's the highest amount is going to be the single payout for your life expectancy. That's the most that you could get. But what if you're married, or what if you've got dependent children, or special needs children, or something like that? Then you're going to be looking at a joint payout, where it goes to you, and not only you, but then after, if you were to pass away first, it also goes to your spouse after that. So you look at that, and there's various ways you can do that, but no matter which way, if you add in someone else that you're going to leave your pension to, that's going to also enjoy your pension, it will lower the total amount that you get. Another thing you can do is you can say, I want to make sure it's paid out for a certain number of years, and then after that, just to the rest of my life. So I want to make sure I get it for the next 10 years, and then for the rest of my life, and they'll adjust, and that'll be a different amount. So those all affect which kind of payout you're going to take. Another thing that can affect your payout is what's called a PLOP, or a partial lump sum payment option. There's different acronyms. It might be a DROP or another acronym like that, but the whole idea is it's a partial payment that you can take out of your pension that you paid, a portion of the money that you had paid in. This will give you some money now. What it will do is it will lower your amount that you get each month. So all of these things play into it, and that's why I said, if we start with your MUG and your expenses, these are the things that you always want to make sure that will always be covered, even as inflation takes off, and years go by, not just right now, but also as the years go by. PLOPs, a lot of people like them because it gives you control of some of your money, and you can decide what to do with it. It'll all decide on what you need and what your goals are for this money and how much you need to get by each month. So that's why it's so important to talk through all of these things with a professional to make sure that you've got everything clear in your mind, and you're at peace with what's going to happen and where the income sources are going to come from. If you are not a public school teacher, though, you teach in a private or a religious school, most likely you've not been paying into any kind of a pension. I do see sometimes, the Catholic school teachers that I work with, they'll sometimes have a small pension that comes in. But for the most part, you've been paying into Social Security. And Social Security is where you're going to get your pension that's guaranteed for the rest of your life. Social Security and the public pensions, that's their idea. If you paid into public pension, oftentimes you have not paid into Social Security, and you may not receive any Social Security. You have to check and see how that's all going to work together. If you're a private school teacher, religious school teacher, you probably have a nice big 401k they were putting into, and then your Social Security. It's much more like private companies that are out there. And then, of course, the third source of income, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and talk about this more, is your private savings. That's where the rest of the money is going to have to come from. Here's a little chart that I dug up for you to look at, to just kind of see how much Social Security may cover, depending on how much that you are making, or how much you need. Income you need is the x-axis, and the percent of retirement income needed is your y-axis. So you can see the more percent that you need of your income pre-retirement, the more you're going to be, the bigger the gap is, or the more that pension and that Social Security is not going to meet your needs, which is why we talk about the pension gap. Now, hopefully you've talked about your pension gap earlier in your career or mid-career, and you know that there's going to be money that you're going to need to pull from somewhere other than your pension and Social Security. Speaking of your pension, how much of your pension can you expect to pay can you expect to pay for your expenses? Well, about 40 to 70%. So this is going to depend on where you live, and your age, and your service years. And then that will translate with the math that your pension, your state pension, your government pension figures out into how much they're going to pay. At the low end, it's going to be somewhere in the 40s usually. At the high end, it could even be over 70%. But usually it's going to be in this range, usually between 50-60%. It's going to top out usually somewhere in the 70s, maybe high 70s. So you're looking at a 20 to a 60% pension gap there. What about if you're one of those private school or you're religious school teachers and you're looking at Social Security? Well, Social Security is only meant to take 35 to 40% of your income. If you remember from that chart, the Social Security was at the very bottom, and that's all that is meant to take up. And then the public pension fills up a little bit more. So, what about that 30 to 60% gap? And where are you going to get that income? And it's really important that you have a plan and you know where you're going to pull your money from and what kind of money that you have, and how much you can. Most teachers, these are the kinds of places that you'll see your money being saved in. Things like your 403b, 457, any kind of private investments, rental property, cash value life insurance, IRAs, maybe a Roth IRA, any kind of annuity. What is your income plan? And that's the most important thing. Our paycheck is the most important thing that we have as we're working, and our income plan is the most important thing you have as you go to retire. Are your MUG needs met with guaranteed income? So mortgage, utilities, groceries, these things really need to be met by guaranteed income. And your guaranteed income is your pension, your Social Security, or an annuity. And those really are the only three things that can be a guaranteed income source. A lot of people, when I mention those investments, 403b, it's in the market somewhere. 401k, if you have a spouse that's got a 401k, or you have an old 401k, that's in the market. Well, what happens if that market goes down? Can you take as much money out of that? No. So it's not a guaranteed source. It's a wonderful source, not a guaranteed source. The cash value life insurance, you can take that out. That's tax-free, so that's its benefit. But what about rental properties? I often hear the real estate market's such a big thing. Everybody's got to get investing and things like that and get your rental properties going and get your rentals. It's an awesome way to receive income. Are you going to receive that income forever? Or are you going to receive it for probably maybe the next 10 years or so? And then what are you going to do? What happens if the rental properties go down and you don't have anyone there for a while? Then what's going to happen to your income? So it's a wonderful source of income. It's not a guaranteed source of income. So you want to think about that's why I always mention the MUGs, and those expenses need to be made by guaranteed, because that gives you peace of mind. And that paycheck's coming in all throughout your retirement, not just now, but later on. What happens when you're 90 and you need to have that paycheck coming in? And then your investments and all those things are wonderful to fill in every other gap. Okay, so that was the first 3 of your 7 essentials that you need to know and that I want to make sure you know and you're empowered with to retire successfully. If you have questions or you want to talk further, I would love to chat with you. Again, my name's Debbie Major. You can reach me at deb@teachersroadmap.com. That is the easiest email to reach me for. That goes along with these classes. To thank you for staying through the end, and because I believe it's so important, I have a dream retirement worksheet for you that you can use to just help put some thoughts to what's going on and what you want to do. You can get it in one of 3 ways. You can either email me and just say, please send me the link, deb@teachersroadmap.com. I'm going to do my best to get the link in the chat for the live portion. You can click that link. It'll take you to the page for the download. Or when this gets uploaded to YouTube in a couple weeks, I will put the link to that worksheet in the YouTube channel, so that if you go and look for that later on, because I know the link in the chat won't be there for the replay. But you can always email me. I'm happy to hear from you. It's no obligation to ask for the worksheet. It's just for your benefit. All right, and then come back in 2 weeks, and for the other 4 of the 7 essential retirement things that you need to make sure you have understanding of and you have a power over, mastery of, so that you can live your best life. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I thank you again for joining me, and join me again. And twice a month, we do these Teach Inspired Todays, and would love to see you in all of them, and would love to hear your feedback and anything else that you could have. I know it's been a little bit longer today, so I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a great day.